Welcome back to Poland, everybody. This is my third visit in 6 months, based on the project of Sobibor. And those who escaped Sobibor, and really the stories of the Holocaust from Operation Reinhardt. So today, it's February, 1st of February today. It's quite chilly. Today I've come to Izbica, which is a town that I've wanted to visit for a long time, since really studying and reading all the stuff I've read, because Izbica was quite, 83 years ago this place was chaos. This was an awful, it's an incredible story. I've read from Blatt, Bialowitz, and a lot of the guys who ended up in Sobibor, they would have also been taken from here to Bełżec. So this was quite influential in the area anyway, where people would be brought to. They would be held here in the ghettos, and then they would be actioned out. And it went on for a while. So I've come here today to have a look at some of the old buildings, from the Jewish side of the community, and also up on the hill there is a cemetery where thousands of people were just murdered, brutally murdered, by those who was in charge of the town. So I'm here just to get some shots of pre and post times of the situation where people were being transported into Sobibor. So let's have a walk around. So I've come to my first location in Izbica. I'm not quite sure if this is the brick factory. So during World War II, there was a government-owned brick factory that used to employ a huge amount of people. It's a big building, and it's obviously redundant. And it's also just in front of the cemetery. So I've actually walked up onto the hill. Now, when they would have had actions back in World War II, and an action is basically where the SS would come in, you'd have the Ukrainian people, and basically they would make a circle around the town, and the town's actually hidden. It's in a bit of a bowl, and on the other side you have the river. And in some of the texts that I've been reading, it often said that there'd be a Ukrainian ring around, and then the SS would go in, start gathering up all the Jewish community, rounding them up, putting them on trains to either go to Bełżec or to Sobibor. And a lot of the Jewish community used to hide, if this is it, in this building. A lot of them was employed here as well. So they made hiding places and all sorts of stuff for people to get into. Yeah, when you actually get here and you see the place after you've read all the information, it's quite a peculiar feeling, really, to know what happened. I mean, the whole Holocaust was awful anyway, but the history that I've been reading on in this specific place, yeah, it starts making it more understandable from the testimony that you read. I'm currently in the cemetery located on the top of the hill overlooking the town of Izbica. And there was a lot of horrific things that happened here, like did in a lot of this area across the, well, across the whole of Europe. But a lot of local people died here, rounded up, and basically just brought up here where they dug holes and they shot them, and that was it. But it was not just the local people. So in a minute I'll show you, well, as part of the video I'll show you people that were actually transported to Izbica from places such as Germany, Ukraine, Berlin, you know, France, all deported to this area because they was Jewish, thrown out of their countries, and then they either died in this cemetery, or they was then put on the train, on the wagons, and sent to Sobibor or Bełżec. So it's, you know, and then there's stories of love in this location. Pre being sent to Sobibor, Bialowitz had a German girlfriend that he fell in love with. She was deported to this area, and they would often walk around in the woods, and I'd imagine it must be around here, because he said that his house sat below the cemetery, and they would walk up and down talking about their future, talking about maybe moving to Germany. His dream was to go to Palestine, as he called it, and in the end she was rounded up and taken away, and he escaped Sobibor. You know, it's mind-blowing when you get here and you think of the people that have just been brutally murdered where I'm standing now, only 80 years ago, all based on an ideology. One of the last places in the cemetery that I've been looking at has been this building here. Apparently the building is very significant in respect of who it was built for. But the stones that are attached to the walls have been put up in remembrance, because during World War II, when the Gestapo took over the town, and you know, it was in much chaos, what they did, they took down the gravestones from the Jewish cemeteries, and they did this not just here, they did this all over Europe, and they used it as resources. So they built walls with them, had apparently a lot of these had something to do with the Gestapo jail, so that all of these were broken and taken down. I have been told that they're going to be hopefully doing something with these, because these have been here for a long time now. But this is the first time I've ever really seen anything like this. I know that if you go to different parts of Europe, you can, you know, this is quite a common thing apparently. But it's just that reality check when you actually get here and you see the remnants of what happened. It's unbelievable, but it happened. Another great book you can read is based on the story of Bialowitz, Fizel, F-I-Z-E-L, I believe. Toivy and Fizel were from the same town here, Izbica. Thomas Blatt's house is just down the road. It's not there anymore, but I'm going to go and have a look at it anyway. And I'm under the impression that Bialowitz lived lived behind the cemetery, because he said that he would used to have to walk up and onto the hill, and it's just literally over there. And most of the buildings are gone now, but there is some remnants of old properties that must date back to World War Two. So I've taken a few shots because it's not a long road, and that is the brick factory where many of them hid during the roundups. So it's all starting to make more sense now from a geographical perspective when you read it and you've got it in your mind's eye, but you actually get here. I do wonder if this was Philip Bialowitz's house, but there's a lot of history here. You can feel it. Yeah, it's a very interesting town. I'm on my way to Pliszczał, which is a tiny little village. It's not even a village, it's probably got about 6 houses in it. And on my way down there, which is where Selma and Chaim spent 9 months living in a cowshed. On the way there, I'm about 3 miles away, but I noticed this beautiful little house, this property that would have dated back to the time, and it's surrounded by the forest. I'm about 10 miles from Izbica, heading north, so I'm going towards Chelm on the way north, and Sobibor is probably another hour north of me. But I just thought that this was very sort of in keep with that time and what was going on. And anyway, I spoke to the farm next door, and luckily there was someone there who spoke English. Nice young fella called Patrick. And I asked if I could have permission to photograph it, and it just so happens that once he got permission for me to photograph it, he said that actually this house was used by partisans during World War Two. So I'm coming back in April, and he's going to let me go in and have a little walk around, which will be absolutely amazing. But there you go, if you don't ask you never find out, do you? But that's a little bit of luck from the trip, and I look forward to coming back in April when there'll be more foliage on the trees hopefully, and it's a bit warmer. I've come to Bialowitz, which is actually where I'm staying on this occasion. On my first visit in the summer, I met a lovely lady called Anna, who actually was the first person I spoke to when I arrived, and thankfully she spoke English because she helped me buy all my bits and pieces in the local shop en route to Zabreja, which is about 6 miles down the road. That was in much warmer weather. We've got it's about 0 at the moment. The wind is cold. It's a dry cold, which is actually nice. And this is quite a significant viewpoint from here, really, because I am actually looking out at Ukraine and Belarus. And obviously, today's world, it's quite it is a very important subject. But back in World War II, when the Holocaust was happening, bearing in mind this is where Operation Reinhard basically run up from Bełżec, which is to the south, Sobibor, which is literally 5 miles up to the north, and then Treblinka, which is much further north. This was the whole of Operation Reinhard country. The Holocaust was in full swing along here, and a lot of people from the villages all along the borders of this part of the country would have been basically sentenced to death, along with everyone else who came across from Russia. The Belarusian area of Russia was badly affected. You know, a lot of Dutch people ended up here. In general, it was just an awful situation. But you can really get a good perspective up here of the landscape. It's flat. We're on a slight incline hill, and then all that you can see in front of you is deep forest. And the farmland here is, you know, it's from an environmental perspective, and that's something else I look at quite often. This is a much healthier environment than what I'm used to seeing in the UK. Yeah, it's just the wild part of land, really, with some interesting species, dense forest, some of the last remaining forests of Eastern Europe, and it's always nice to come back here and just have a look out at the view. It makes you think about where the world is today, where it's been in the past, and what's going to happen in the future, really.